Okay. Hello, everybody. I am Maria, and I'm the admin of the Money Making Esthetician Facebook group. And today I'm joined with Myra. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to do introductions, tell us about yourself, and then tell us where we could also find you.
Okay, great. Thank you for having me. My name's Myra, and I go by the Sugar Guru. If you want to check out my Instagram or if you hear about the Sugar Guru at all, my academy is Guru Sugaring Academy, and it's hosted um, worldwide. We do online and also hands-on. There's about 35 educators around the world so far. And so I help mentor students and educators helping to mentor students. Um, I've been sugaring for over 20 years, and I was a waxer for 3 years, and I did specialize in chemical peels and facials for some time, but sugaring definitely just naturally kind of took over my practice and became my niche. And it's built a very loyal, lucrative clientele for me. It's helped me to raise my 3 children on my own and still be able to put them in club sports and take them traveling and, you know, have a social life and make my own schedule. So I definitely am an advocate for sugaring, and it's just so cool because you do build lifelong relationships, and you also have a very flexible schedule, and you can kind of um, just go in any direction with it, really. You can niche down to a certain area, body part, or do full body, men, women, sensitive clients, elderly. So it's very versatile. Um, and it dates back to ancient Egyptian days when Cleopatra and the pharaohs were around. So that's a really cool story to share with your clients and introduce them to something that they might think is new, but the reality is it's ancient and it's been around longer than any other form of hair removal. And it's just now kind of coming back full circle after hitting the professional beauty industry over 40 years ago. Now it's just becoming more and more known and getting some real traction. And so people are discovering it. Employers and clients are seeking it out. So if you learn sugaring and become proficient at it, it gives you, job security, and because people need sugarists that are proficient. I always tell my students and clients that are trying it out, like, you can either have an amazing experience or a horrific experience. Probably as with any profession, if you, but especially sugaring because there's such a learning curve. So if you are doing it incorrectly, it can be very painful and the results are not optimal. But if you master it and you invest in your education and you really practice, anybody who already sugars that's in this group, you know that it takes a lot of practice. So I always say it takes about 3 months to be comfortable, not proficient, but comfortable. You keep learning for years to come. I'm still learning from other students and educators, and so, but once you master it and you're doing it correctly, it can be a superior form of hair removal. It's never hot. You never have to worry about burning your clients. It's all natural. It's 100% eco friendly and biodegradable. It removes the hair in the same direction of the hair growth. So you're applying the paste opposite the direction, and when you remove it, you're sliding the hairs out in the natural direction. So there's a lot less friction to the follicle than methods that go against the direction. So less likely to break hairs, less likely to cause irritation of that follicle, which can result in histamine reactions and ingrowns and all kinds of things. There's no resins in it, so it's only grabbing dead skin and hair. And so people that are really sensitive, even eczema and psoriasis, they're candidates for sugaring because it is so gentle. And you don't need any sticks or strips. You just use that ball of paste, prep the skin properly, and that same ball can do an entire service area. You just apply it, remove it, and keep applying it and removing it until you're done with your service, unless something causes you to have to get a new ball, like a big amount of hair. Somebody comes in and hasn't trimmed and hasn't done any kind of epilation or shaving for months, then you might have to switch your ball out. But for the most part, you prep your client, you grab your product, you come to their bedside, and you don't have to go anywhere else for more products or supplies throughout the service. So you save time, you save on overhead of supplies, and you can actually charge more for sugaring than you can for waxing or threading, because it's more of a specialty. It's harder to find, and the results, when it's done properly, can last longer, and be more efficient. So yeah, you can charge $2 to $30 more depending on the body part and the region you're located in, and it's all about how you market yourself too. So that's an overview of me and my academy.
We have two questions. Alexis asked, will this be okay for oncology clients as well if approved by their doctor?
It is one of the few ways, if the only way, that they could still get epilation. Of course, with a doctor's note. I have oncology clients for sure. So it is very gentle. You're not dealing with the heat or the resins or
I
the
love that.
friction.
I love that there's no heat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the heat can, aid in discomfort and histamine reactions and all kinds of things. So no heat. It's never hotter than, it never should be hotter than, your body temp.
So in your course, what can people expect to learn within the course? And then what do you find new sugarists struggling with? And then how can they help bring in more clientele?
Okay.
You're like, that's a lot of questions.
Yeah. So within my academy, it's all technique based, and we have over a dozen brand partners of professional grade sugaring companies that honor discounts for our alumni. And so you can really pick any paste you want. We just kind of guide you on the different consistencies for different environments and skill levels and body parts and all the things that go into how you choose your paste wisely. We have a full online library, and then we have options if you are more of a hands-on person or you want that added training. You can opt to do just online, but you can also do online with hands-on and select one of the educators around the globe that are listed on the website. If you don't see someone in your region, we can definitely find somebody for you, most likely. But all our online includes some private Zoom lessons, and every course, whether it's online or a hybrid of online and hands-on, includes extensive unlimited follow-up. So because we know there's such a learning curve, and it's very easy to give up on, people need that extra encouragement and just little check-ins to make sure that they're getting their technique down, and any little tweaks they can make. We have the online library. We have a sugar hotline where you can call in. You can even be on FaceTime with your client and get walked through a service when you're learning, if you're stuck, because a lot of times with sugaring, you are multitasking, doing at least 5 things at once, probably more. And so in the moment you get nervous, and maybe somebody is like flinching in pain or something, different things. add to you being nervous and forgetting everything you learned in class. So I've definitely walked people through on a FaceTime, like what to do in that moment to get through the next click. And then it's just a confidence booster that all of a sudden they remember all the tips and tricks they learned in class and they're able to execute the service without me staying on the phone, and we check in later and kind of talk about it. They can always send progress videos. So basically, if they can't reach their educator, they can always reach me directly by email or phone. And we have monthly workshops that are included with your tuition. So all the alumni for the classes are invited to come and check in, and we do open Q&A and demos and just grow together and learn. So all the classes are listed on, you can find it through gurusugaringacademy.com, or it's also Masterclass Gurus, which you guys have probably seen around in the group related to me because they're linked. And I can talk about Masterclass a little bit more another time, but because we're focusing on the Sugaring Academy, but that's how you can find it. And basically, you know, you can go through, there's online, there's hands-on, there's specialty workshops. I have a Manzillion specialty workshop coming up soon in a month. And so that's always updated with different stuff that you guys can select. But I would say the main class is the online with hands-on. And that's the online library with an 8-hour hands-on day.
We did have a question. Jessica asked, what is the difference between homemade and fabricated vendor sugar wax?
Well, I think that when you're making it at home, because I definitely have done that, and I think when you're making it at home, you're more likely to have some inconsistencies. You could nail a recipe one time, and then the next time maybe it's more humid that day or it's colder. Like the environment you're cooking in really plays a part in how your paste turns out, and the size of your burner. And you're basically putting granulated sugar in water and melting it to a liquid state and then cooking it at a high enough temp, a certain temp, to cook the water out of it enough and make it this consistency to remain pliable but not be as hard as a rock like a Jolly Rancher. So, and not melt all over the place. So it's very, I think that once you go pro, you have your system refined and you have your climate controlled, and there's candy thermometers and all kinds of gauges in your process to make sure that a soft paste turns out soft every time, a medium paste turns out medium every time, and you know, so on. And as a sugarist, you're always troubleshooting to see, you're always assessing your environment and your situation to see which paste you need to use for any given circumstance. So homemade stuff, when people ask how to make it and if I've ever thought about doing that, I tell them, you know, I encourage you to try and make it at least once, and then you might respect or, you know, value up buying it, because it's not fun necessarily making it, and it's hard to get it consistent. I think there was another question you asked too, Maria, the like what people struggle with. Was that the other
Yes.
2 and 3 part of that question?
What are the 100 parts of the question? Yes. So it basically was, what do you see new sugarists struggling with at the beginning?
Definitely consistency. You know, you have the option to use a warmer. So a lot of people ask if they need a warmer and if a wax warmer is okay, if they should use a sugar warmer specifically. The warmer situation, usually wax warmers run hotter than sugar warmers. So sugar jars are usually plastic and can melt in too hot of a warmer. You want your warmer to be cool enough to where you can literally touch the inside of that warmer well with your bare hand and not burn it. That's how low the temp is on a sugar warmer. So sugar warmers are different in the way that their temp ranges are much lower. And so I would say paste consistency is a big deal for people. They don't know what level to set their warmers at, and it ranges. Somebody in a tropical island versus a cold, snowy environment or a really dry desert environment, they're all going to be different. So we can give you like a general range, but definitely helps to have some private training of some kind to cater to your environment.
We have another question. How much is it to enter the academy?
The online starts at $450. The online with hands-on is $850. And then there's specialty workshops and also courses with business mentorship. And so I would say the average, most popular one is the $850 one.
And what's included in the 850?
The full online library and 2 to 3 private Zooms, depending on how they're doing. Most people are good after 2, but they might, if they need a third, we're happy to do that. And then an 8-hour day with an educator of their choice.
That's a long day.
And yeah, and the whole follow-up, it's the Sugarist Unite program. So once you're in, you're in.
I put the link as well inside of the chat.
Awesome. Yeah, I would say other things that sugarists could struggle with is just getting the multitasking part down, because you're having to hold the skin tight, then you're dealing with this pliable ball of paste that they feel like is going to fly across the room or drop on the floor. So they're focusing really hard on their figuring hand, but they're also having to pay attention to their support hand and carry on a conversation and smile. So I say it's like jumping on one foot, rubbing your tummy and patting your head, and jumping on one foot and saying the alphabet backwards all at the same time while smiling. It's a lot. We're multitasking like crazy. But I can keep answering questions, but I figure I'll pull some sugar out of a jar and show you guys a little demo while we do. My hands are a little sweaty, so I'm gonna do a little trick with the gloves here for you guys. A lot of people do struggle, actually, no matter what level they're at, getting their gloves on if they have to change on mid-service or on like a hot day. So I kind of stretch my gloves out and then dust a little powder in them. You can also dust a little powder on your hands, but I kind of prefer just putting a little in my glove. And that was a lot. So we'll share with the other glove.
That's so genius.
But just get a little powder in there and shake them around. And then put your fingers in where the holes go and reach deep into your glove. A lot of people grab here and it breaks the glove. So reach deep and create little air pockets to get in there.
Jessica had a question. What would be the average time of wax on a big body part and small, Brazilian versus axilla?
Brazilian, I don't know what that last.
Underarm.
Oh.
So what would be the average time of a wax on a big body part and a small? So basically, what's the average time for hair removal like per body part? Like how long would a Brazilian take and how long would an underarm take?
So Brazilian, when you start out sugaring, is an hour and 15 minutes. You're struggling. Some people pick it up quicker, but it can take some time because you're nervous and you're learning so many things, besides bedside manner, you're learning about that ball. Once you're proficient, they are 7 to 10 minutes. You can quickly go from that hour mark to 45 minutes to 30 minutes, 15 minutes. You just keep shaving off time as you keep practicing. So I tell people that are new, line up models. Say the first 10 people to get a Brazilian, first 10 people to get a leg, underarm, whatever, are donation based or 50% off, some kind of discount. To get volume rather than just sitting there. I was already waxing for 3 years when I started sugaring. So I had a clientele. I was busy. I didn't have time to take an hour on a Brazilian. So I would do sugaring on my maintenance clients and it would be a lot quicker. They're already used to the discomfort. So they're not flinching and sweating and, asking for breaks and closing their legs on you and all the things that happen when you're new. So you can whip through it a lot quicker. If I had like eyebrows, somebody with a full unibrow comes in and needs full on shaping, I didn't have 30, 45 minutes to work on that person. So I would tell them all about sugaring while I was doing what I was really proficient at, which was waxing. I would tell them all about sugaring and how it's going to be $2 more if they want that in the future. But this time we're going to do wax. And then the next time they came, I would do sugar. Or if you have bigger gaps, you could, make the decision to sugar in that moment. But it's just, brows could be 10 minutes once they're maintenance, once you're proficient. Underarms are like 5 minutes, maybe 3, depends on how much hair they have, but it's quick. And it just lasts so long. You can grab the hair at a 1/16 of an inch. So that's smaller than the size of a grain of rice. It's basically giving you the ability to capture the hair during the anagen active stage of growth. And with wax, you have to wait till it's 1/4 of an inch. So you kind of miss that magic timing of the active stage of growth, the anagen stage. That's why you hear sugaring lasts longer and leads to permanency quicker and all those things, because we're constantly removing the hair from its source of nutrients at that 3-week, no more than 4-week mark during the anagen stage of growth. And that also means less discomfort. So if not the heat and the lack of heat and resins in the method, it's the fact that the root of the hair is so much smaller coming out of that tiny pore. I always say it's like the first time is like pulling tree trunks. The second time is like plucking a flower petal. When you're consistent, it's going to make my job easier and their life easier because it's going to be less painful for them and I'm going to be able to move through the service a lot quicker. So legs, people take maybe in the beginning, they might be like an hour and a half, but you can get your legs down to 35 minutes, 35 minutes. So again, consistency and your client doing their home care plays a big part in that. So I'm gonna do my leg while I talk to you guys and answer more questions.
I encourage you guys, if you would like, you guys are welcome to turn on your mics and ask questions while we're sugaring.
So I'm just prepping by cleansing, and then I'll do I'm going to flip this over and dry the area. I've been sugaring my legs for so long, it's hard to see the hair, but there is hair there. And I could do from the knee, above the knee down on my own legs in 10 minutes because my hair is so fine. I only have to go through it twice in the application and I can move a lot faster than if I was working on someone with new, coarse, crazy hair where you have to go slower and let it seep in longer and really get saturated around that hair. But with my hair, you could literally grab the hair and slide them out of the follicle with your fingers. That's how little and non-existent the root is on my legs. So
Is there any product you would recommend for the clients that would prefer some type of numbing agent before they get sugared?
um not particularly, no. I always just tell my it's another step, and I tell my clients, it's more mental than physical. If
Hmm.
you're the best method of pain reduction is maintenance appointments, in
Okay.
my opinion. But there is numbing sprays. They're just usually less than 0.5%, and it's just I don't know how much it's really doing for them. And they would have to put it on like 20 minutes before. So I did it. I like bought a round of stuff for a little while, and then I never rebought it because I
Yeah,
found that
same. I've experimented with a couple of them, but they either all take too long or it just doesn't do enough. Like it doesn't go deep enough to actually make a difference.
hmm So this is a softer sugar. Um, Pulling the sugar out of the jar is another challenge for people. Keeping it in a ball, people tend to squeeze it, trying to keep it from dropping on the ground, and that pushes it up into your hand and all up on your fingers. And a lot of people struggle with the sugar getting all over their hands. So I always encourage people to think about gravity and keep the ball like loose, floating in between your fingers. Don't squeeze it. Um, and try to keep this C shape to your hand so that you don't collapse and squeeze the sugar into your palm. And remember, your fingers can open too. A lot of people keep their fingers tight and close together, and they only work their thumb. And then this glove starts to pull off, and the sugar works its way up into your hand. And this is a common issue for sugarists, for estheticians, but also sugarists in general. Like we're tweezing, we're massaging. Um, and so the last thing you want to do is we're texting, everybody's texting. The last thing you want to do is only rely on your thumb and constantly be stressing that joint. Like allow everybody to work together. Okay. And then when you go to set your ball down, let your sugar really kind of hang off your fingers before you go to set it down. That way you're not working so hard to push it along the skin. You want to keep it like a steamroller here, like a bead of sugar in front of your fingers at all times. That way you're not dragging along their skin and pulling their hair. So general rule is to apply 2 to 3 times. If people are experiencing hair pulling in the application, if it hurts in the application for any reason, or at all, the reasons would be because you're pushing too hard, you're using too much pressure, you're moving too fast, you don't have enough sugar around the edges of your finger and in front of every finger. That's pretty much it. So I went through that 3 times. And when you come to the end, getting it to release is a tricky thing for people. So you want to be in that upright position that you're applying. And then when you start to rotate and pull past your edge to flick parallel to the body. So a lot of times people don't pull past their edge. They might rotate, but then they just try and flick off and it's stuck. So you have to do that rotation and pull past, hold the skin tight and flick. Every time you have to pull past your edge. And the removal, another thing that people do unconsciously, because they're multitasking and thinking about a million things and trying to hold a conversation with their client, is they push down harder right before they're trying to release the sugar from the skin. And when you push down in combination with waiting too long, because you're processing everything, it sticks to a new, you create like basically a new farthest edge and stick to the skin too much. So I always say you want to go from, switch your brain from flicking, from molding, from applying to flicking and releasing. When you're applying, you're using little to no pressure. You're going slow and you're being calculated about the section. When you are removing, you're just tapping the edge and removing, tap and remove, tap and remove. You're not removing, molding through it again, removing, molding through it again, removing, molding through it again, because that breaks it down when you're over molding it. So after you get it all removed, you ball it back up by relying on gravity a bit. If you are not using gravity to your advantage, or you're talking like this, it's dripping towards your hand, or you're keeping your fingers close together and you're only working your thumb and it's getting farther and farther up into your hand, this is what you're going to end up looking like. And so people are like this, they're trying to get it to come off. A lot of times they're like this, trying to get it to drop. And it has this whole wall to hold on to. So let it kind of hang off the cliff by putting the palm of your hand towards the floor and opening all your fingers so that you break the connection there and gravity can start to drop the sugar for you. In the case that your sugar is too firm that you're working with, because when you're new, you're going to be working with a firmer paste to be able to maintain control. There's a couple other things you can do if it ends up like this on your hand and it doesn't want to drop. When you put your palm to the floor and kind of make that claw looking situation, you can pump your fingertips to your thumb tips to get it to draw away. See how that happened? If it still doesn't want to come, again, because it's firm for beginners, you can use your client's body part without hair to kind of get it to pull off your hand. So you would just set it down and draw to your fingertips. And then you can tap to collect it back up. So I can't see if there's any comments and questions.
I'm watching it for you.
Okay, cool. So if there's anything you guys want to troubleshoot, now's the time.
You guys can put it in the chat and I'll ask, or you guys are also welcome to turn on your mics.
There's two ways to apply paste. Usually there is like a 90-degree angle. Right now I'm doing kind of the staggered hand position. This is the traditional hand position where you kind of bend these two back fingers, and then that gives you a wider application for large body parts like legs and stuff. Or if you're working on a narrow area like an underarm or a Brazilian, then you might be using more of a 90-degree angle like this, and maybe even break it down to cupping your sugar back here and only using a couple fingers. So right now I'm using the traditional side stagger. I'm always trying to help students focus on ergonomics to protect your wrist and the longevity of your career. That's a big deal. And being somebody that had carpal tunnel surgery when I was 17 on both my hands, and I've broken my dominant sugaring hand, my wrist twice in my life. So I'm a big advocate for ergonomics and just how you position your hand and your wrists and your shoulders and protecting your back and all that stuff. So
That's so important.
Yeah, people often ask, like, they're worried about carpal tunnel or arthritis, and with sugaring, they feel like working that ball and using their hand instead of sticks and strips is a problem, but that's why you just have to learn how to do it correctly and really let the sugar work for you versus you having to work too hard with the sugar. So a lot of little things come into play with all that.
Jessica asked, what is the average aftercare? Anything different than other waxing methods?
Just maintaining, exfoliating, and moisturizing at home. They can come get sugared and every 3-4 weeks and not do their home care, and they won't get as good results. Especially, every body part has different challenges. Like legs, you commonly will have little hairs laying under dead skin, like on the shin or the back of the thigh. Like I have one little hair, and then as one little hair that was laying under some dead skin there. But as you sugar, you're getting rid of that dead layer. So that hair, even though it didn't come out the first time, it did the second time because the sugar kind of released it. So I always tell my clients, exfoliate about 3 times a week and moisturize daily. And then we continue the conversation by asking how they're exfoliating, what they're using, same with moisturizing. Because, and then you can, if they're still having issues and they're telling you they're doing all their home care, maybe it's a personal habit, like they get it in their bikini line all the time because they are runners or they're doing spin bike classes. Maybe they're wearing like non-breathable underwear or living in yoga pants that have some spandex in them, and that material is just not that breathable. Tight jeans, desk jobs where they're sitting all the time. There's so many things. If I believe that they're doing their home care, sometimes they say they are, and as you build your relationship, they might be like, "Oh, I actually only did it like twice since I've seen you." Or if they go camping, like my clients that will go on a vacation or a camping trip, they slack off on they might not bring all their stuff with them to do their normal home care. So you'll see them come in and they'll have some engrams that they normally wouldn't. So most sugaring brands have a support line, and some are more extensive than others. And then now there's all kinds of body lines too that can support epilation. So you definitely want an exfoliant and a moisturizer, maybe a spot treatment, depending on what they need. Hopefully that answered your question.
Since this does not strip off more than the hair, is spray tanning safe to do so after?
That's a great question. So I actually started my business by offering facials and hair removal and tanning. And tanning goes hand in hand with sugaring. If you want your tan to last longer, get sugared or waxed beforehand, and then you're not shaving off your tan every few days. So I would tan somebody, and if they wanted their tan to last, I'd be like, oh, have you ever thought of getting sugared? And then vice versa. If you're sugaring somebody, you're like, hey, do you want to get an airbrush tan? Now, you don't have to be licensed to do airbrush tanning. So at least in California, I'm pretty sure that goes for anywhere, but I could be wrong. But I started tanning, and then I got so busy with sugaring that I found a tanning artist that I could network with, and we would send clients back and forth. Because tanning is it's a little bit of a process to set up and break down if you don't have a designated room, especially, and it would just be all up in my nose and all kinds of things you have to clean. You have to wipe everything down. It gets everywhere. So eventually I subbed out the tanning, but it's a great way to build a sugaring clientele.
How much can a sugarist artist expect to earn weekly once they're fully booked? I love this question.
That's a great question. I actually have a whole breakdown of that in some of my presentations, like the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly gross income that you can make. And I would say the average sugarist, they could easily make over $1,000 a day. And then if you're still getting established, maybe 600. You're making, if you're doing Brazilians, you're charging an average of $65 for a Brazilian, and eventually that's going to take you a 15-minute spot. Even if you book a 30-minute spot, you're making over $100 an hour, and with tips it's like $130, $150 an hour. So, and then once you are at that 15-minute mark, because honestly, I don't feel like I'm rushing my clients when I book them 15 minutes, because their pre and post care and their actual sugaring process takes me 7 to 10 minutes. So if I book longer than 15 minutes, I'm sitting around and they're gone back to their kids and their job and whatever. So, 65 times 4 in an hour, or 3, depending on what you want to do. It's a lot. So in a week, depends on how many days a week you're working. Most people, a lot of people like to do 4-day weeks or 5-day weeks. You can make your own schedule as a sugarist, as an esthetician. And so I think, easily 600 to 1,200 would be the range. And you could, of course, make more than that 1,200 if you're also doing retail and just, book yourself efficiently. So quite a bit. I feel like it's more profit margin than a lot of things we can offer with our license, unless we're getting into expensive facials, which come with extensive back bar lines that are a huge investment, and equipment with lease payments and stuff. So with sugaring, you just need some sugar jars, a cleanser, a pre-cleanser, a post-cleanser, a soothing aftercare oil, serum, balm, something like that. So 3 products, 3 back bar products, powder, and then your paste. So 5 products and gloves. So your overhead to your startup is minimal, and then your ongoing overhead is also minimal. And you don't need a lot of space. Like, I have a home studio, and it's enough for my table and to get around on either side, and then little table for their belongings and some of my supplies. So you can get by with, I have a lot of hairstylists that end up learning how to sugar, and then they eventually, they still dabble with hair because they love it, but they make their money doing sugaring because it's so lucrative.
Vicky asked a question. She said, I came in late. I've always been interested in sugaring, but what is the benefits over waxing?
So there's well, it's never hot. It'll never, you remove the hair in the same direction of growth. It can grab the hair to super short length, so 1/16 of an inch versus 1/4 of an inch with wax. So you can capture the hair during the anagen active stage of growth. And that's going to lead to permanency quicker. It's going to also aid in the lack of discomfort in the process because the root of the hair is a lot smaller coming out of that tiny pore. You can do the most sensitive clients. You can charge more for the service, and an average of $2 to $30, depending on the body part and the region you're in. And your overhead is minimal. You know, you're saving time and you're saving money because you're not having to go back and forth to your workstation for more sugar or more sticks or strips or anything like that. You grab your ball of paste, you go by their side, and that same ball is used for your entire leg service or Brazilian or back. For Brazilian, I would say, you know, back to the weekly income, when you buy a jar of paste, it's about $23 to $35, depending on the brand and the size of the jar. But I would say the average is, let's just say $25 for a jar of sugar. And you could generate an average of $1,200 out of that jar because your average jar is 35 ounces and you only need the size of a golf ball to do a Brazilian. So if you were doing all Brazilians out of that jar, a golf ball of paste will get you through. So when you times it by how much you charge for a Brazilian and how many you can get out of a jar, that's the math. Comes out to a proficient sugarist making about $1,200 on a jar, maybe $1,000 if they like to use a higher volume and they're maybe a little wasteful or something. But yeah, and you can also do little finger flicks, you guys. So it eliminates the need for tweezing in a lot of areas. If you have a stubborn chin hair or little cleanup hairs that you need to do.
That was actually my next question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference in technique when working on different areas like face, underarms, bikinis?
So there's lots of different, sometimes you're going to be using a little pressure. Sometimes you're going to be gliding over that hair and using no pressure at all. And sometimes you might leave the hair, like a little section of sugar on an area to kind of soak in and really get down to the root of that hair, and for if it's a shorter stubborn section. And sometimes you're just gonna like feather over the top of it to remove it. So it varies depending on the vellus hair of the face that's very fine and can be the most challenging. Or if someone's sweating, like facial areas sweat more, genitals, especially scrotums, underarms. So sometimes when you're sugaring, it's a race to dry powdered sugar before they start sweating again. And so you might do sometimes like legs, you can do a big section. You can lay down a big section and then just go and tap to release it away. And then sometimes you need to stick to smaller sections because you're battling perspiration. Yeah, so I think that answers the question.
KB asked, what about aftercare? Which products do you recommend for retail?
So I have over a dozen partners and I like things from every line. I would look into, if you're already sugaring, look into the sugar brand that you're using currently and what they have to offer, because a lot of times the bigger the order, the more reward points or discounts you get or free shipping minimums that you make. So I like personally having less vendors if possible in my portfolio. But other than actual sugaring companies, you know, well, as far as sugaring companies, there's so many that have great products. But I personally love Caribbean Candies powder. It's got like a nice coconut smell to it, and the owner Rashida is amazing, and she has a vajacial line and multiple different masks that you can use, like if you want a clear gel mask or a clay mask. So Caribbean Candy has a pretty extensive support line. Radic Labs has a good pre and post care. Not a ton of retail yet, but they're supposed to be coming out with that. Kiko is a great line. When we post this, we could post my resource list for them, Maria, so they could get a
Absolutely.
list. It's basically a list of all the brand partners with discount codes for you guys to try them out, and a summary of what they have. If they have retail, back bar, what size their jars are, how much they cost, and all that kind of stuff.
I could send it out in the newsletter with the replay and then also connect to ManyChat. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the newsletter. I'm going to put the link in here. And this replay is going to get sent out with that. If you want to email it to me, I'll make sure to include it.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great resource for people that are wondering about the different brands available on the market and what they have to offer. Hale and Hush, Bush Balm, those are also lines that are supportive to sugarists that have been trending in different platforms that I'm involved with. But yeah, I'm happy to extend that list for free to you guys. And anybody that has questions after this or when they watch the replay, you can always DM me or put it in the comments so everybody can learn from it. If you've already taken sugaring training and you just want to refine your skills and really master the finesse, that's my favorite part. I have a love for attention to detail. And so a lot of times when you've been sugaring 5-6 years, there's still some little tweaks that you can make to your technique. So we do offer refinement, finesse type training as well. There's just an advanced course on the website that goes over whatever they want to review. If they want to get better at speed sugaring or Brazilians or faces, like if they have small hands and they need to figure out how to work with a larger volume, we have something to cater to everyone.
We have about 2 more minutes. If you guys have any questions, I encourage you to either put it in the chat or turn on your mic. Do you have any more advice you'd like to add?
Well, I was just gonna say, sugaring for me, I was already a proficient waxer. Nobody really knew about sugaring, and it was forced upon me by the resort that I was working at the time. And my clients loved the waxing that I was doing, so I didn't have a huge demand for it. But my love for being eco-friendly and green and was the first thing that made me up. Well, other than keeping my job at the resort, the eco-friendly part, I was like, okay, I want to give it a chance because that appealed to me. And then it just naturally built my clientele. Like one person was so amazed, they would tell 5 friends. And before you know it, you have a whole group of friends that know you through sugaring. And there's all kinds of marketing tips in our classes too. Sororities, military, mom groups, fire department, like a lot of guys, no matter what they identify as, like to get the hair removed. It might be their profession or the lifestyle. So it's men and women, it's sensitive, it's older, it's people with autoimmune issues and eczema and psoriasis and oncology patients, like a lot of it just is a resource for people that normally don't have a resource. They can't get lasered, they can't get waxed, they don't like certain things. And so a lot of people found me because it was their last ditch effort to find a form of epilation that their skin could tolerate and that worked for them. And so yeah, it's a lot of fun. And you literally, I feel like you change lives by being able to offer an efficient service that is as little pain and discomfort and irritation as possible when it's done correctly. So and I do consultations if you guys are considering it and you have more questions or just want to kind of see individually, if it's for you, we could talk about it. And of course I have tons of tips for you, but I know we're limited on our time at this point. And this is your cleanup, you guys. You pull your glove off and then just pull your other glove off, and and that is your cleanup. And there are biodegradable gloves on the market too, so it's all biodegradable, which is my favorite.
Thank you so much for your time. All of this will get sent out. Do you want to know everybody where to reach you? I did put your website and your Instagram in the chat, but for anybody who's watching the replay.
So the website, you could go to masterclassgurus.com. Or if it's easier to remember, gurusugaringacademy.com. They go to the same place. My Instagram is Myra, MYRA the sugar guru. And yeah, my Instagram has tons of videos if you just want to scroll through and pick up some new tips and tricks, or if you actually want to do a class. And anybody who is in San Diego that is interested in learning Manzilians, it's an untapped market. And I have a full day Manzilian perfection class on May 18th with models already lined up. And so everybody will get hands-on and we'll just be mastering that.
That's
But
exciting. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the Manzilian class?
so it'll be a full 8-hour day. It'll come with some recorded Manzilian videos for them to have for follow-up and watch before the class to kind of get familiar. And we'll be going over bedside manner, pricing, marketing, obviously all the hands-on logistics, and they'll be working on live models. And so that one is normally $750, but I'm doing it for $600. It'll be myself and Elisa, who is a San Diego educator, my other San Diego educator here. And it's just gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna spend the whole day going over all the logistics and how to build that part of your business. I get referrals for Manzilians from estheticians in the region that I don't even know, because they hear through the grapevine that I offer that service. So I know there's a lot of people that are interested in it, but maybe there's a little fear of what to expect and what could happen and how to deal with different circumstances and besides just the anatomy. So we just go through all of it and how to make you and your client comfortable. And I will tell you, male clients that you can make comfortable with an uncomfortable situation, that they're loyal for life, and they tend to be more available and pretty generous tippers because they're so grateful that you're able to provide the service. And then they don't have lashes and airbrush tanning and fillers and 2-hour hair appointments and nail appointments and all the things that a lot of the women do. So it's like their barber and you. and maybe a massage occasionally. So
So where can people get more information on that? So it also, oh, what's your Instagram? I mean, I'm gonna tag her Instagram here. Give me 1 second. I was gonna say it's maybe in the newsletter. So the things we could include in the newsletter is the replay, your list, and then we'll add the Manzillion info.
yeah, the Manzillion it'll be under specialty workshops on the website.
I will.
And for them to register. But I'll send you a little write-up of it too, so we could do a special post for that, you guys. Spaces are limited, but
On the website now, where would I find it so I can put the link in the chat?
under specialty workshops and retreats is where it will be live by the end of today. So check back.
Alrighty. I'll make sure to link it in the newsletter, you guys.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maria. And thank you everybody for joining. I saw some familiar faces on here. So thanks for the support. And I look forward to engaging with all of you.
Thank you so much for your time. I hope everybody has a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.